I always believed that once you find the person you're meant to be with, the rest of the world just sort of fades into the background. That's what I thought when I married Adam. And for a while, it was true. Until I found a lipstick-stained note in his jacket pocket that didn't belong to me. Miss me yet? That's all it said. No name. No number. Just 4 chilling words scribbled in a handwriting that looked like it was dragged out of a teenage diary. I stared at it for a full minute, my brain refusing to accept what my eyes were reading. My hands trembled as I held the small piece of paper between my fingers, and a cold wave ran down my spine. Was this some kind of sick joke? Adam was in the shower when I found it. The water was still running, and I could hear him humming a familiar tune, our song, ironically. I stood frozen in place, the silence in my mind so loud it felt like I was underwater. It wasn't just the note. It was the scent on his shirt. Too sweet, too floral. Not my perfume. Not mine. I stuffed the note back into the pocket and stepped out of the bedroom, trying not to make a sound. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought he might hear it over the water. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake beside him, watching his chest rise and fall. He looked peaceful, innocent even, but the paper burned in my mind like a glowing ember. The next morning, I put on a smile. I acted like everything was fine, but my world had tilted on its axis. Something was wrong. I could feel it, not just in the note, but in the way Adam had started checking his phone in the bathroom, the sudden late meetings at work, the odd way he flinched when I asked simple questions. I had to know. I wasn't going to let paranoia eat me alive. So, I started watching him. Quietly. Carefully. Not obsessively, I told myself, but attentively. And the deeper I looked, the more tangled everything became. That's when I saw her name pop up on his phone one night. Just for a second. Natalie. His ex. The one he said was too toxic to keep in his life. The one who, according to Adam, had moved across the country. The one he hadn't spoken to in years. Or so he claimed. I remember standing in the kitchen, my fingers digging into the edge of the marble counter as I watched him laugh at whatever she'd sent. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just a message. It was something else. Something in the way he smiled at his phone, like he was revisiting a memory he wasn't ready to let go of. I didn't say anything that night either. I waited. The next day, I searched her name online. Her social media was locked down, but I still managed to find one tagged photo, her with a friend, smiling at a cafe just 15 minutes from her house. She hadn't moved away at all. She was right here. Why would he lie? Why would he pretend she was gone? Unless she wasn't just back in town. She was back in his life. That thought punched a hole in my chest. I could barely breathe. I tried to tell myself it could be innocent. People stay in touch. Maybe he was just being polite. Maybe it was closure. But that word, closure, felt like a joke. Because if it really was closure, then why hide it? Why lie about her being gone? Why pretend she didn't exist? And then, a week later, I came home early from work. I was supposed to be out until 6, but the meeting wrapped up ahead of schedule. I parked in the driveway, walked up to the house, and as I reached for the door handle, I saw her. Through the window. Standing in my kitchen. My kitchen. Natalie. She was laughing, as she poured something into 2 wine glasses. I couldn't see Adam, but I knew he was there. He had to be. I didn't even go inside. I stood there for a full 5 minutes, heart hammering against my ribcage like a warning bell, before I turned around and walked back to my car. My hands were shaking too hard to start the engine. What was she doing in my home? How did she even get inside? Had he given her a key? My thoughts were spinning out of control. All I knew was this. This wasn't an accident. She hadn't just shown up. She was invited. And suddenly the note made sense. The perfume. The secrecy. The lies. This wasn't about lingering feelings. It was about sabotage. I spent the rest of the night at my friend's apartment, not saying a word. I didn't even cry. I just sat on her couch, replaying everything over and over, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart on TV. But it was mine. This was my marriage. My husband. My home. And she had walked right into it like she belonged there.
But why?
Why now? And what exactly did she want? I didn't know it yet, but that night was only the beginning. Natalie wasn't just trying to come back into Adam's life. She was trying to replace me in it. And the worst part? She was willing to do anything to make that happen. The next morning, I walked into the house like nothing had happened. Adam was already in the kitchen, humming that same song, the one he always did when he was trying too hard to look relaxed. He turned when he saw me and smiled. "Hey babe, you're up early." I looked him straight in the eye. "Who was here yesterday?" His smile faltered just slightly, like a flicker of static on a screen. "What do you mean?" "I came home early. Saw someone through the kitchen window." I waited. A woman. She looked familiar. Silence. Then he sighed, like a kid caught sneaking out past curfew. "It was nothing. Natalie just dropped by. She was in the neighborhood." I stared at him. "Dropped by?" "Adam, she was in our kitchen. Pouring wine." He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting away. "She wanted to talk. About some stuff. Closure, I guess." There it was again. That word. I felt a surge of heat rise in my chest. Closure? After 5 years? What could she possibly have left to say? She's going through a hard time. She didn't have anyone else to talk to. That's when I realized he was trying to make me feel bad for her. Her. The woman who had been sneaking into my marriage like a thief in the night. The woman who had left him shattered years ago and had somehow reemerged now, just as we were finally in a good place. "She's your ex, Adam. Not your responsibility." His voice hardened. "I know that. I just didn't want to make things worse by being cruel." Cruel. Funny how protecting our marriage felt like cruelty to him. But letting her back in, after lying to me, somehow felt justified. That was when I knew I couldn't trust his judgment anymore. Not when it came to her. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded, walked to the bedroom, and shut the door. But inside, I was unraveling. I started seeing things clearly after that. The way he jumped when his phone buzzed. The way he turned it over screen down. The way he brushed off my questions with half smiles and vague words like it's nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was building. One afternoon, I picked up his phone while he was in the shower, not to snoop, but because it was ringing over and I thought it might be important. It was her. Natalie. I let it ring. A few minutes later, a message popped up. "Tell her already. She deserves to know. This isn't fair to either of us." Tell me what? That night, I confronted him again. This time, I didn't ask gently. I demanded the truth. I told him I had seen the message. That I knew more than he thought I did. He looked exhausted. "Nothing happened," he said. "I swear. But I think maybe I started to feel something. I didn't act on it. But I didn't stop it either." I felt like the ground opened beneath me. "You think you started to feel something?" I repeated, barely recognizing my own voice. "While we're still married?" He sat down, burying his face in his hands. "I don't even know what it is. It's like she came back and I forgot everything she put me through. It was stupid. I was stupid." I nodded slowly. "You didn't cheat with your body. But you did with your heart." That hurt more. Because emotional betrayal, the kind where someone offers their trust, their attention, their affection to someone else, wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. From that moment, everything changed. I didn't leave. Not right away. But I stopped asking where he was going. I stopped checking his phone. I stopped trying to fix things. I let silence fill the space where love used to live. That's when Natalie started getting bolder. She sent me a message through a fake account at first, but I knew it was her. She didn't even try that hard to hide it. If he loved you, he wouldn't still be talking to me. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because I had already started working on a plan. Not revenge, not payback, but truth. I gathered everything. The notes, the messages, the timelines. I documented it all. Because if this was going to fall apart, I wasn't going to be the one who looked crazy. I was going to show the world what really happened. But the universe has a strange way of flipping the script when you least expect it. Because just as I was preparing to walk away, something unexpected happened. Adam showed up at my work, looking like he hadn't slept in days.
"She's gone," he said.
I blinked. What do you mean? She called me. Said she couldn't do it anymore. That she thought she could get me back, but she was just chasing a fantasy. She admitted everything. The notes. The visits. Even the message to you. I didn't say anything. I just stared at him. She said you didn't deserve any of it. That you were stronger than she ever expected. That was the first time I saw her cry. In a video Adam played for me, she had recorded it, a kind of weird apology confessional. Her makeup was running, her voice shaking. She looked like a woman defeated by her own schemes. I just wanted to feel important again, she said. But all I did was destroy something that was already beautiful. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Not for her, not for Adam, but for myself. Because I realized I had survived. I had held my dignity when it would have been easier to break. I had stood my ground while others played dirty.
And now?
Now she was the one crying. After watching that video, I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain had already carved its path so deep that there was nothing left to bleed. I sat with Adam in silence. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful, it's heavy, awkward, full of ghosts whispering all the things we never said. He looked at me like he didn't know who I was anymore. Maybe he didn't. Maybe I didn't either. You deserve more than this, he said quietly. I should have never let her in. I messed up, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I nodded. You're right. I do deserve more. That's when I stood up and walked out. Not out of the relationship, but out of that room, that moment, that cycle. I needed time. I needed to think, not feel. I needed distance from both of them. The man who betrayed my heart and the woman who tried to claim it as collateral damage. Days passed. Then weeks. People noticed. Friends started asking if everything was okay. Coworkers watched my silence, sensing a shift. I didn't hide what happened anymore. I didn't protect him with quiet loyalty like I used to. I told the truth, not to shame him, but to set myself free. And when I did, something amazing happened. Women started sharing their own stories. I wasn't alone. I wasn't the only one who'd been emotionally cheated on, made to feel crazy, gaslit into silence. Turns out there are 1,000 Natalies out there. And even more Adams. But there are also women like me. Women who walked through fire and didn't let it burn their hearts to ash. Women who stitched their pain into power. It was around this time that Natalie messaged me again. This time from her real account. You can hate me if you want to, but thank you for showing me who I really am. I didn't think I'd have to break you to realize I was already broken. I read the message and left it unread. Some apologies don't need responses. Because they're not for reconciliation. They're for recognition. And that was enough for me. One night, I found myself standing in front of the mirror, brushing my hair, when I saw it. My own eyes.
Tired, maybe.
But sharper. Wiser. There was something there now. A fire that hadn't been there before. I didn't need closure from Natalie. I didn't even need it from Adam. I gave it to myself. I started doing the little things again. Reading in the quiet of the morning. Walking barefoot through the grass. Laughing at my own jokes. Rebuilding my sense of me. Not as someone's wife, not as someone's threat, not as someone's afterthought. Just me. Adam noticed. One evening, he sat across from me, watching as I lit a candle and played my favorite old record. I miss you, he said. I looked up. You miss who I was. But she's gone now. He didn't argue. Maybe he finally understood that love doesn't survive where trust can't breathe. I didn't make any decisions right away. Not about the marriage. Not about what would happen next. Instead, I waited. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is pause. Not run. Not react. Just observe. Natalie? She disappeared again. But not in the way she had before. This time, it was quiet. No messages. No cryptic posts. Just gone. Like she had said her piece and finally let go. But something told me she was watching. From a distance. Not because she still wanted him, but because she finally saw what I had been protecting all along. Not the man, but the integrity, the loyalty. The ability to love without games. That's what made her jealous. Not the house. Not the ring. Not even the title of wife. It was the purity of my heart. And maybe that's why people like her always try to break women like me, because they can't copy what they don't understand. And Adam? He started showing up differently. Cooking dinner. Leaving notes. Trying not just to win me back, but to earn my trust again. But I didn't rush. Because you don't heal from betrayal by pretending it never happened. You heal by facing it, letting it bleed, letting it scar, and then choosing deliberately what comes next. That's the real turning point. It's not when they apologize. It's not when they beg. It's when you decide that your peace is no longer up for negotiation. It's when you stop explaining your worth to people who only see it when someone else points it out. It's when you realize that you can be whole, even if the people around you stay broken. That's what changed me. Not her lies. Not his failure. But my decision to stop shrinking so others could feel tall beside me. I thought the worst was behind me. I thought after the silence, the messages, the betrayal, what else could possibly be revealed? But that's the thing about truth. It doesn't always arrive on time. Sometimes, it waits for the heart to be just strong enough to hear it. It was a quiet Sunday morning when the message came, not from Natalie, not from Adam, but from someone I didn't even know existed. A woman named Clara. Her words shook me like thunder rolling through my chest. I don't know how to say this, but I think we need to talk. I found your number in an old chat on my boyfriend's phone, and I think we've both been lied to. I stared at the message for what felt like an hour. Boyfriend? Adam's name wasn't mentioned, but something in my gut twisted. I messaged back, cautiously. And then, the truth started unraveling, thread by thread, until what I once thought was a complicated triangle turned out to be a messy, tangled web. Clara had been with him, off and on, for almost a year.
A year.
She'd met him through work, a business trip, something casual that became something serious.
Or so she thought. They talked about future plans.
About moving in together.
About someday.
She didn't know he was married. Not until she found a birthday card tucked into his coat pocket. My name written in cursive.
A date.
A message so tender it couldn't be ignored. At first, she thought it was a mistake. An old relic from a past life. But the date was recent. And that's when she searched. Looked deeper. Followed the breadcrumb trail he hadn't even tried to hide well. She found photos. Wedding videos.
Me.
And she realized she wasn't the only one being lied to. She was just one of many. When she reached out to me, it wasn't out of malice. It was pain. Confusion. A woman just like me, trying to make sense of a man who spoke love in 100 languages and meant none of them. We talked. And for the first time, I didn't feel rage. I felt relief. Because now, I knew. All the questions. The late nights. The strange work calls. The emotional distance. It wasn't just about Natalie. It was a pattern. A sickness. A web he spun not out of love, but out of ego. Control. Insecurity dressed as charm. He wanted to be needed.
Adored.
Pursued. And when one heart wasn't enough to fill that void, he reached for another. And another. Until even he couldn't keep count. I confronted him. Not with screams. Not with tears. With silence. I laid the messages out like evidence in a courtroom. Showed him the dates. The screenshots. The truth, stripped of drama. And for the first time, he didn't deny it. He just lowered his head and said, I didn't know how to stop. I looked at him, and I didn't see a monster. I saw a broken man who built his identity on attention and applause. But that didn't make him less responsible. And it didn't make me stay. Because I realized then he didn't love me.
Not fully.
Not truthfully. He loved the idea of me. The image. The anchor. The soft landing when the other women got too real or too tired of being second. But I was never meant to be anyone's second choice dressed up as a priority.
So I left. For real this time.
No half goodbyes. No open doors. I packed my bags. Called a friend. Slept on her couch for 2 weeks until I found my own place. A small apartment with creaky floors and windows that let in too much light. But it was mine. And more than that, it was honest. There was no perfume lingering on pillows that weren't mine. No late-night phone buzzes followed by quick exits. No secrets growing in the corners of the room. Just peace. Raw, aching, sacred peace. And do you know what surprised me the most? I didn't feel broken. I felt whole. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't loving someone who saw my heart as a playground. I wasn't explaining my worth. I wasn't performing for crumbs. I was just being. And that was enough. Clara and I stayed in touch. Oddly enough. Two women who could have hated each other but chose healing instead. She told me she left too. She packed up her things and told him she wouldn't be another version of me, waiting for him to change. And in some strange, beautiful way, we both walked away, not as enemies, but as survivors. Of manipulation. Of gaslighting. Of lies so thick, they almost became believable. But we didn't just survive. We rose. And that's the revelation I want you to hold on to. Sometimes, the truth doesn't destroy you. It frees you. Sometimes the betrayal is not the end of your story, but the beginning of the most honest chapter. And sometimes, the people who try to break you are simply showing you where your boundaries should have been drawn long ago. This wasn't about Natalie anymore. Or Clara. Or even Adam.
It was about me.
The woman I lost in the chaos. And the woman I found in the silence. There's a silence that comes after the storm. Not the empty silence of abandonment, but the rich, healing quiet that follows the decision to finally walk away. To finally say goodbye. And mean it. You see, goodbye isn't just a word. It's a process. It doesn't happen when you slam the door or pack the last bag. It doesn't happen when you press block or walk out into the night. No, the real goodbye happens inside. It happens the moment your soul exhales and whispers, I don't belong in this pain anymore. That moment came for me not in some dramatic showdown or shouted declaration, but in the simplest, most sacred way possible. I woke up one morning and didn't think of him. No more replaying old arguments in the shower. No more wondering what he was doing, who he was texting, if he missed me. No more late-night temptations to check his social media. It was just still, peaceful. Like my spirit finally found its way back to its own body after being borrowed by someone else for far too long. But before that moment of peace, there was one last conversation. One final exchange. He texted me, out of the blue. Just a plain, short message. I hope you're okay. I stared at the screen, heart still but mind spinning. Not I'm sorry. Not I miss you. Just, I hope you're okay. And that was the moment I knew.
He hadn't changed.
He was still reaching out. Not to make amends, but to soothe his own guilt. To dip his toe into my world and see if I'd let him back in. I didn't respond. Because this wasn't a story of a man who finally realized what he had and fought to make it right. This was the story of a woman who realized she deserved more and didn't need an apology to start healing. Still, I needed my own closure. Not from him, but from within. So I wrote a letter. A letter I'd never send. A letter for me. It went like this. I loved you longer than I should have. I held on through things that should have broken me. I believed your words when your actions were screaming something else entirely. I bent and broke and rebuilt, all while you played hide and seek with the truth. But now I see you clearly. Not the version I romanticized, not the potential I clung to, but you. And I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I do. I deserve to be free, to be happy, to stop bleeding from wounds you never acknowledged. I release you, and I release myself.
Goodbye.
Underscore 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 underscore. After I wrote that letter, I burned it. Watched the paper curl into ash like all the illusions I once held. There was no crying this time. Just calm. Finality. because I had done the hardest thing of all. I had let go of the dream of what could have been and embraced the truth of what was. And from that truth came power. Do you know what happened next? Life didn't suddenly become perfect, but it became real. I started laughing again. Genuine, belly-deep laughter that didn't feel guilty or stolen. I went on walks without checking my phone. I said yes to invitations I would have declined before just to stay home and wait for someone to come back who never really showed up in the first place. I rediscovered old hobbies, old friends, old parts of me that had gone quiet. And in that space of rediscovery, I found something I thought I'd lost forever.
Joy.
Not surface-level happiness, but true joy. The kind that comes from knowing who you are, what you survived, and how much more is waiting for you. There were days I still remembered him.
Of course I did.
Healing doesn't erase memory, it transforms it. Where once there was longing, now there's learning. Where once there was ache, now there's awareness. I didn't need to hate him. I didn't need to love him either. I just needed to let him go. And in doing so, I opened the door to everything that was meant for me. Better friendships, wider dreams, a deeper connection to God, a stronger sense of self. I look in a mirror now and I don't see the woman who begged for answers or tolerated disrespect. I see a woman who rose from the ashes, who made peace with the unanswered questions, who traded chaos for clarity. And I want you to know something. If you are still holding on, if you're still waiting for closure or change or an apology, you don't need it to be free. You just need to choose yourself. The goodbye you're afraid of might be the gateway to the most beautiful chapter of your life.
I didn't know that then.
But I know it now. And I promise you, what's coming is worth every tear you cried, every night you questioned your worth, every time you almost went back. You are not what they did to you. You are who you became despite it.
Stronger, softer,
wiser, and more radiant than ever. So go ahead. Say your goodbye. Burn the letter. Delete the message. Walk out of the memory. And walk into yourself. The version of you that's been waiting on the other side of heartbreak. She's not only ready, she's reborn.